Hey, Zane here, and welcome back. Thank you for joining me today. And in this video, I want to talk about why Bitcoin really beats traditional real estate. And, those of us who have been in Bitcoin for a little while, we understand that Bitcoin is scarce digital property. But a lot of people don't realize that. And so I want to elaborate on this a little further today in this video. But the first thing to realize, I guess, is that, high net worth individuals, they know that they can't store their wealth and their savings and their economic energy in paper currency. So they can't leave their savings in the bank for any amount of time, particularly if it's, a substantial amount of money, because they know that inflation is going to essentially decimate and erode their purchasing power over time. So what do they do instead? Well, traditionally what they do is they park this capital into well-located property and real estate. And the thing to realize is that there are a lot of issues associated with traditional real estate, and we have to understand that traditional real estate, once upon a time, it wasn't so much a store of value, it had utility value. People used property to produce things and to farm things, and that was traditionally a couple of generations ago where all of the value was when it came to property and real estate. It was really associated with real estate and property that could actually produce things. Those were the properties that were valuable. But of course, over time, and certainly since we came off the gold standard in 1971, gradually over time what we've seen is all of these rules put in place that have made property and conventional real estate very attractive to be utilized as a store of value. And when you take into account concessions for property investors in terms of capital gains tax and different tax concessions that are made if you are a property investor, that have all been made over the past few decades. And so what happens, particularly in Australia, is people are very good at sourcing out where are the best places to store their long-term savings and their long-term value. And of course, real estate has been the thing that has been monetized as a store of value. And so really over the last 30 years, that has been something that has gone into complete overdrive. And now we see that, some of the wealthiest people in this country have vast property portfolios. And so, I'm sure it's the same in the US and Canada and most of the free world that has, the ability to own property. So property rights for its citizens. Typically, we see that people have, over the last few decades, used real estate as a store of value. And so, as Bitcoiners, what we're looking for is we're also looking for a store of value. And I'm actually a traditional property investor myself, and I continue, I don't invest in property anymore, but the property that I already have, I keep, and there are lots of reasons for that. But the reality is that, when I compare the performance of Bitcoin and the properties of Bitcoin to all of the pitfalls associated with hanging on to traditional real estate, I do question whether or not long-term I will actually hold on to my real estate, because the reality is there are a number of attack vectors in place when it comes to real estate. That's one thing which I'll come back to in a moment. But the other thing to realize is that Bitcoin is actually demonetizing traditional real estate right before our very eyes. And so, we see year after year how the price of homes is actually falling at a great rate of knots when it comes to pricing it in real estate. And, I think broadly the figures are something like, over the last 8 years, the median priced home in both America and the US, and and Australia, and I would say Canada is in this boat as well when we convert the currency. But in broad terms, the price of a median priced home in our countries has gone from around about 650 Bitcoin to, today a median priced home is, in the order of 8 to 10 Bitcoin. And so, the value of real estate has actually plummeted when you price it in the hardest form of money, which of course we know is Bitcoin, because it is absolutely scarce. It cannot be inflated. The rules can't be changed. And unlike fiat currencies, which there are no checks and balances, we have no idea how much there is. It's a completely inflationary, infinite currency. And this is why we're seeing that economic value and economic energy is gradually shifting from the infinite source, being currency, to the most finite source, being Bitcoin. And as we scale the ladder from the currency up to the most scarce form of property that exists, which is Bitcoin, we see the value proposition at each level. And so this is why, for anybody who doesn't own conventional real estate, and even if you do, very soon, if you're not already awake to this, you're going to be really starting to question, why you want to store your capital for the long term, unless you have lifestyle reasons for doing so, kind of like I do. But if there are other reasons why you're holding real estate and property as an investment, you really should be thinking very seriously about or comparing that performance of that investment versus Bitcoin. Because over the course of time, we're going to see that Bitcoin is going to continue to demonetize real estate more and more and more. And particularly as more and more people wake up who have vast sums of capital dedicated to real estate, as they start shifting that, divesting their traditional real estate and moving it over into Bitcoin. And I think that we're on the cusp now of mass awareness when it comes to Bitcoin. When we have the US government, a pro-Bitcoin administration, right now working behind the scenes, looking at the feasibility of setting up a strategic Bitcoin reserve, or at the very least a Bitcoin strategic stockpile. When you have different states within the US already acquiring Bitcoin, when you have now Wall Street involved, certainly after the last 12 months that the SEC approved the ability of the big financial institutions, the likes of BlackRock, to be able to, via their ETF, their exchange traded fund, they can now essentially recommend Bitcoin to their clients, to the financial planning industry. And yes, Australia is behind. Australia always is behind with these things, but eventually we'll have no choice but to get on board. And we always know that when America sneezes, Australia catches a cold. So even though we're slow off the mark and everybody at our level of government and institutions and banking has their head in the sand, wishing that this will go away, it's not going away, and it's only a matter of time before Australia is going to have to play ball with this digital transformation of value and wealth as well. And so, in a nutshell, we have to realize that Bitcoin is demonetizing real estate. Bitcoin is a better form of capital allocation, for the simple reason that if you consider with traditional real estate, what do you have? You have so many different rules that can be changed on you at any given time. You have acquisition costs, you have land tax, you have stamp duty, you have maintenance costs, you have tenants to worry about, you have agent fees, you have insurances, you have depreciation, which obviously is beneficial from a tax point of view because you get to offset that against your income. However, you still have to consider that over the course of time, there's going to be degradation associated with that property, and you're going to have to spend money on maintaining it. And so you don't have any of this with Bitcoin. And the other thing you don't have with Bitcoin is the risk of seizure or confiscation or any kind of attack vectors that are in place that are associated with traditional assets that are centralized and inside the system. And this is one of the most powerful features of Bitcoin that I believe is not spoken about enough, particularly for high net worth individuals, and that is the ability to store a significant portion of your wealth in a completely sovereign fashion, with no counterparty that you need permission from, no time to organize anything. You don't have to wait for anything to be sold down. You don't have to contact your financial planner or your local real estate agent to, to liquidate that asset. Like I said, no risk of seizure if somebody wants to attack you or sue you, or you go through a divorce, or any of the things that can happen as part of life, where assets are generally brought into the equation. And so that sovereignty aspect is, again, another feature of Bitcoin that we've never seen before. And so this is very, very powerful, and I want you to just think about this and ponder this, whether you're already in Bitcoin or you're thinking about slowly getting into Bitcoin, learning about it and starting to allocate some of your capital to it, or maybe you want to use it as a savings technology. You can really get involved in Bitcoin at any level because of its divisibility and its fractionalized nature. But really just understanding the properties of Bitcoin, how powerful it is as digital property, the fact that it is completely portable, the rules can't be changed. You're not at the whim of a local council or a government that can all of a sudden increase the council rates or change the amount of land tax. I mean, we had a bill for land tax recently for a property. It's gone up by about 80% in the last 12 months. And we had no vote or no say in the matter. The bill just landed on our desk. And so this is the situation that we're faced with now, and we have to understand that we don't really own that real estate. We have a paper claim on it, but the reality is we don't truly own it because of the rules change on us, which can be, then essentially you have to ask yourself, well, what rights do we really have to that property? And so Bitcoin is really the antithesis of all this. It's the separation from all this, and this is why the decentralized nature of Bitcoin makes it so potent and so powerful. So I hope you got something from that. I could really keep going here, but I want to keep this video short and sweet today. And I think this is the thing that once people really start to realize what is happening with Bitcoin, not just in terms of its outperformance of traditional real estate and the fact that it's actually demonetizing traditional real estate at a great rate of knots, but people are going to realize the other features of Bitcoin when it comes to the sovereignty and the portability aspect of it. So I hope you got some insight, some value. I love talking about Bitcoin, as you can probably see, and I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for being a part of my community. If you haven't yet subscribed, please consider subscribing. It just helps me to, be encouraged to keep showing up, that I'm helping people understand Bitcoin, and really that's my mission. Like most people who have been in Bitcoin for a while, we just want to see a return to sound money, because we understand that when we have a system of broken money like we have now, there are many problems that start to filter out into society. And so we just want to see a better world, and that starts with returning to sound money. And right now we have the opportunity to plug our life gradually into Bitcoin. And when we do that, we begin to realize that life only really gets better when you live on a Bitcoin standard. I want to leave it there today. This is Zane signing out. Please like, share, subscribe, and leave me a comment if you'd like me to, if you want to just share your thoughts, or you'd like me to elaborate further in a future video. Thanks for listening. This is Zane signing out. Bye for now.